Hi, welcome to Give Your Wall Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom. Last time on Give Your Wall Some Soul, we painted a lush pineapple, and that was great because we were able to do a painting that had form and was realistic, but do a lot of abstract shapes within the painting. So that was just a lot of fun. Today, what we're doing is something different than what we normally do. It's a departure. I'm doing an interior scene. In fact, I'm doing a bedroom scene, and this is when you do an interior scene with very little lighting, this is all about what's implied rather than what's said. So this is a very complicated painting, even though it looks like it's very simple. So I'm going to get started right away. The first thing I'm going to do is get that black. It's all about lost edges. Rembrandt was excellent with lost edges. So I'm going to paint some nice, rich, dark blacks. And how I'm going to make that is I'm going to take some dioxazine purple and some perylene scarlet and quinacridone violet. This is a nice, dark, rich, almost red. Oh, that's nice. Oh, you know, if you look at the palette, that's just awesome how how some of that color, sometimes I get lost on the palette with the colors that emerge under there. Okay, that's a good base. So I'm going to do that. And just start on the left-hand side. If you look at the reference photo, this whole side of the painting, that's a little too purple. Can you imagine me thinking anything is a little too purple? I need it more neutral. So I'm going to add some blue and a little green. It's also a little too cool. I'm going to make mud, this nice mud. Yeah, that's better. Let's see how I like that. I think already it's going to need more red. Some cad red light. There. Because, you know, even though this whole side of the painting, if you look at the reference photo, I am not going to be painting the chair. It's all going to be about the light and just that side, very little side of the dresser and the side of the bed. Just very, very, everything's suggested. And, you know, when you're in your room, just before you go to sleep, oh, that's a nice dark. Yeah, that's so much better. The other one was the same value. It was dark, but it was too bright. This is great. And by crisscrossing my strokes, I can get some mysterious things going on in the dark shadows. Like, okay, and you're in your room right before you go to sleep, and you've got the light on. So if you just have one little light source, the rest of the room, you know there are objects there. You can't really make things out, but you know there are little things here and there. And that's what we're going to do in this painting. It's all about what's not said. And when I first told some people that I was going to do a bedroom scene, they all started cracking up. And I said, no, not that kind of bedroom scene. There aren't going to be any people in here. But you'll know the people have been there. Yeah, that's a nice, rich, dark color. Very nice. Why did I start over here? Because this is all just going to be black, dark, and I'll get half the canvas covered, and you won't have to watch me putting paint on all day. Yeah, that's nice. I'm going to lift it up so I can get... Actually, I'm going to turn it sideways. It's just easier to reach this and get the edges. Now, I'll put more in this area later, but less is definitely more in this kind of a painting. Okay, now that I've put it down, I scribble a little bit. Just throw some, you want some energy and some action going on in here. Okay, that's good. All right, now I'm going to put in the folds of the drapery, and I'm using the same color. let's see, where is it dark? Right here. And I'm doing this this particular part, very fast and loose. I don't want it to be too fussy. Believe it or not, I can get fussy sometimes. That's my husband. I'll sit and play around with one little aspect, but for the most part, I like it to be loose and free. I think that's why I like the pineapple so much. I didn't have to stay in the lines. I could just paint. Okay, I've kind of got this outline of the drapery in. I want to push this back. What's going on here? You'll notice that this is a little warmer than I'm going to put the back of the window and make that darker too. This is going to be warmer than than this area behind the lamp. That's going to be outside, so I'm going to make that a real cool dark. I'll go ahead and put in the drapery. It's, you know, part of the thing that I'm really tempted to do to start is like, oh, I see this area, I want to go paint this, and I see that area, and I want to go paint that. And it's like, nope, you know, just one thing at a time. Pull myself back. So I'm going to finish this drapery. I have to mix this kind of a nice rust color. So, you know, even my paintings in the dark, they've all got red in them. Okay, so let's see, I took some Perylene Scarlet. Have to tone that down a little bit with maybe some yellow ochre. Well, that didn't tone it down at all, but that sure is nice. I can't use it, but it's nice. Okay, I'm going to grab a little more yellow ochre and some of this darker mixture. That's pretty. I want to see how much different is it. Not different enough. If there's not enough contrast, I mean, I don't want a huge contrast, but if there's not enough contrast, that's better. The other thing that CAD, I have to go back to what I was saying. If there's not enough contrast, nothing shows up. And the whole outside of this painting is going to be about very little contrast. And right here in the middle is going to be in your face with this huge light source of the lamp, just very stark. So that's what's going to make this work, is very little contrast around the edges and a boom right there. That'll be great. So you can't have too many, I better wipe this off, otherwise I'm going to contaminate. You can't have too many booms. It's like having too many trumpets. You know, you've got to have some neutral instruments. You have to have some neutral color so that the brights can sing. Okay, so this is fairly neutral here. Not a lot of contrast yet. And that's pretty much where I want that to be on this outer edge. And I'll go lighter and brighter as I take it over here. Let's see. Is that part of the drape? Yep. I'm drawing to see what these things do as I paint that. And maybe a little bit of this over here. These are just suggestions of folds. That's more of a shadow rather than the drape, so I need to fill that in with this. This is great. You can just correct as you go. They're not really corrections, they're adjustments. Okay, now I need to get a little bit lighter, so I'm going to wipe my brush. Add a little bit of Cad Red light. See what that does. That brightens it up just a little. Yeah, that's going to work. And as it gets closer to the light source, it's going to have to get lighter and brighter. But I don't want this too bright, or it's not going to be, I'm actually not going to paint it quite like I see it, because it won't read right. Now, how do I know this? Because the first time I did paint one similar to this, and I painted it like the photo, and I didn't like what it did. Okay, that's a little too gold. There, that's better. Now, how did I get started painting bedroom scenes? And I am doing a series right now. You know, the interesting thing about this is that most of my paintings, like the pineapple, they're all about form. And so I'm really concerned with making things look three-dimensional. And when you do something of this nature, it's all about shape. There is no form because when you turn the lights out, it's all gone. If you only have one light source, everything that's close to that light source has form. But just try this. Have one light on in your bedroom and everything else off, and then look around your room and see that the things that are far away from that light source are, you really can't tell what's there. You just have a vague idea of what's going on, but the things that are close to that lamp you'll be able to make out. So that's how this painting is going to be. So you will have form the closer it gets to the lamp, but out in the shadows, it's all shadows. You're not going to be able to tell. So this is a different way of painting than I normally paint. And it's good to try something different. Over the weekend, speaking of something different, I normally paint by myself. I do not paint well with others. And part of the problem is that once I start painting, I just get into what I'm doing and I forget everybody's even there. So when you have a group of people painting, it almost defeats the purpose to paint with other people when you forget that they're there. However, I had this wonderful experience with 4 friends that came down and painted with me all day. And we each tried something that was different than we normally do. And that's how I got started on this. It's like, let's pick something out of our comfort zone. Helps you grow. Even if you have to throw it out when you're done. Now the temptation is to get a little fussy with these drapes, but I'm not. I'm just going to rough them in, and I may play with them later, or I may not. See, depends on how much time we have. I really just want to get the canvas covered. Need a little more contrast here, or that's not going to show up. Maybe a little squiggle here. Let's see, that's some drapery there. I'm not sure if I like that angle. Just because it's in the photograph doesn't mean you have to paint it that way. This is just a guide. I know you've heard me say this before. When I was in band, when I was a kid, the director would say, play it as it's written. And it's really important in band to play it as it's written because you're playing with other people. But when you're doing this by yourself, you can change the rules. You know, I was also inspired by the other painters and how they painted, and it was just wonderful to have them in the studio. Okay, so you have this little swirly suggestion of this, and there is some drapery. Let's see. I think I'll put some more drapery over here, except it needs to be lighter. I'll wipe my brush. Okay, what else is different about how I normally paint? Normally I take the palette knife and I'm mixing everything before I start painting. And I started contaminating my original line of paint up here from the minute I started today. And that's okay, that's how it goes sometimes. Oh, that's better. Needs to be a little lighter here. I'll probably have to lighten that up later too. But it's too early to start picking it apart. It's tempting though. You can tell it's getting into fall because the fall colors are something that's appealing to me right now. I'm very seasonal with what I paint. Okay, I'll probably add some more little squigglies of drapery here, but I want to get the canvas covered today. And the study that I did took me 2.5 hours, so I'm really pushing it to get it done in an hour today. Now, what did I do different in that study? That I worked out a lot of my problems, so you don't have to see that today. I can tell you what not to do in the bedroom. Okay. I made things way too bright. Okay, now I'm going to go for this window. It's night outside. I'm going to make it very dark. I'm adding more blue to this. So this dark is going to be darker than drapery. Ooh, say that fast. Darker than the drapery. Cooler than the drapery because I really want to push this back. So, ooh, that's a nice olive. Let's see, I probably didn't make enough paint, but we'll try it. And maybe a flat brush. Why am I using a different brush now instead of my filberts that I normally use? Only because there's sort of a straight line here that I want to keep. Okay, there were some reflections going on in this window, but you know what? I'm not painting them in. Whoa. Hey, I forgot to put that back on the easel. That happens to me all the time at home. And God, if I'm in the middle of a painting session, it scares the heck out of me. But I wasn't that far in, so otherwise you would have seen me jump across the room. God, if you can't have fun while you're doing this, then I wouldn't recommend doing it. I can see where I didn't draw all that in, but that's okay. I'm just going to wing it as I go. You know what? There's this device that helps keep your painting in place. We'll see how long I can stand using that. Usually it just bugs me. It's in the way. I'd rather hang on to the painting. Yeah, that's a nice cold color. You'll notice I'm not using any tube black. I'm making my own darks here. Because even with all the lights out, or with most of the lights out, once your eyes start adjusting, you do see some color. And of course, I'm turning it up a notch because it's more interesting in my painting. But there are some very effective, beautiful paintings that are strictly tonal that don't have a lot of color. It's just light and dark. I just happen to like color, so I'm throwing it in there. You do what you want. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that makes it look like there's something going on outside that window. That's more interesting than just a flat black plane. You know, when I first started painting, I worried about you'd see people make these interesting strokes, and I felt like I couldn't do that without making it look stupid. And so I used to worry about that. Now I don't care. It's like, it's enough about composition and to get the big flat areas in the right place so that whatever you do in here, you can't mess it up. Just squiggle it and it'll make something interesting happen. Okay. I didn't get my little T-square to get a totally straight line because I want this to have some soul. Okay, that's just a little too much for that. I kind of killed this part of the lamp, but I'll paint over it later. That's good. Now I'm going to take some of that same color that's here in this cool shadow area here, and add it to this dresser. And let's see. Yep, see, I couldn't stay that long with this thing. You know, the other thing that happens is that this gets really loose, and so I'll be painting, and it'll be like a guillotine, and this thing will fly down, and if that happens, you'll see me jump too. Okay, so I have to lift this up so I can get this edge here, and I've got to finish drawing this. I really want this to be, need to put it back. I really want this to be very understated. Yeah, you're going to know it's a dresser by the time I'm through, but we don't want any details here. So let's add some, just because this is a warm painting. Oh, I like that. Just some nice green, maybe some of that color here to tie this in. And you know what, just to make it easy, again, flip this puppy over. By the time we're through, you'll know that there's a dresser here, but I'm not going to paint any knobs. I'm not going to put any of the woodwork in, because you know what? If you're looking at this light, bright thing here, you're not going to be able to tell what's going on here. That's got some nice color. I like it. Okay, now I need to flip it over. And this side of the dresser, I'm going to lighten it up just a little bit, and I'm going to do that by adding a little bit of red. See, I haven't even used the white yet. But if I add just a little bit of the red, that's going to make it a little too much like the drapes. So let's see what this does. It is kind of like the drapes. So I'm going to add just a little bit more green here. That's close enough on the perspective. It's probably not dark enough. That's what's going on. So I'm just going to go over that whole thing. I'm hanging on to this because I know it's just going to fly. And that whole area there needs to be dark, because this whole thing is just going to fade into the woodwork here. Okay, so before I start again playing and analyzing what's going on, I need to cover the canvas. So it's always a struggle to keep focused and get this kind of energy and move fast through the show when I want to just play around with one little area. But it really helps the energy of the painting to do that. All right, so now I'm going to put in my lights, because if I don't put them in now, it'll be really hard to work around them later. So I'm going to mix some white with my favorite Indian yellow, because it's a nice transparent bright. Indian yellow is a lot of what I use to glaze the background of the pineapple. And that's that color I told you guys on a show, I don't know, several shows ago, how they used to make Indian yellow. But now it's all synthetic. They don't use cow urine anymore. Thank God. Okay. Is that a good yellow? Yeah. Because in my house, we use the warm lights. We don't use the cold lights. No, I don't have red light bulbs because I like red that much. But I don't like the cold fluorescent. They're too cold for me. Okay, I'm looking for a nice brush here. What am I looking for? Another squared off, but that's not going to do it. Okay. We're actually going to try and get a little bit of control here. How about this one? Okay, it's close enough. I need some more medium to help this flow. Normally it doesn't run like this. I paint on more of a flat palette surface, but it's easier to see the palette this way. I can tell right now that that's not bright enough. I'm going to grab a little bit of this yellow and overstate it. Really overstate it. Okay, you can see I'm painting right over these little lines that I drew in for the... And you know what? It's not taking them away, so I'll be able to put those in over the top. And it sure is easier to do this than to try to paint around these little lines, pencil lines. Okay, so I got a squared off brush this time so that I could make this straight line fairly painlessly. Again, you know, you could get a T-square and really make it perfect, but I'm not doing that. Like I said, the thing I liked about the pineapple is I didn't have to stay in any lines. I could just paint. And so I can do this kind of painting without staying in any lines, and I really got it made. Smearing some of that black around and some of the graphite from the pencil. So I'm trying to clean that up a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to clean that up totally perfect yet because I want to see what kind of time we have in the show. Now I'm going to put in just the white from the windowsill, and I will try to tidy that up a little bit. And I'm going to make that a little lighter. Not so yellow. Now, I just thought it was interesting that this whole bedroom scene is all about relationships of shapes and everything that's not said, rather than telling too much. Because by the time we're through today, we will be able to say a lot with very few words. Just some basic shapes. Okay, that's roughly where it needs to be. And let's put in some trim, window trim, and I'm going to make with some ochre. That's a little lighter. Make a nice little green with some ochre, some of that red, and a little bit of permanent green. And ew, that is not, that is not the color I wanted. Oh God, it's just bad. So what is it, you know, okay, when you're cooking, and today I decided I was going to make this tapenade. I was going to try making a pasta with this tapenade. And then I threw in, I thought, well, let's throw in some salsa. And then it was too hot, so I'm throwing in some other spices to make it, you know, and it just didn't ever cool off. And that's the same thing with this pigment that I'm mixing here. It's not cooling off. So I think I'll have to set that aside. But it's funny, I'm adding more red to cool it off. Yeah, that really makes sense. Okay, but you know what? That's a better brown. I just don't want it to be the same brown as the drapes, because it's not. Okay, I'm going to put some of that off to the side. That's very close. I'm going to take purple, Carbazole Violet, which is also the same as dioxazine purple, and put in my little shadow for the trim. Let's see, it goes like about right here. That's fairly straight. Looks good enough for me. And then I have to adjust this because I can tell right from here that that's not right. Still not right, but it's better. Okay. Just like my signature, it always goes up at the end. Okay. Need to wipe my brush and just fill in the middle. And I may just take some of this yuck color and blend it in and see what happens. And that's not bad. I just don't want it to be too close to the drapes. And it is, but we'll see about adjusting it later. It actually could be warmer. See, I'm not waiting till later. Couldn't wait. That's better. Yeah, that's interesting. That's starting to show up. It's funny, I looked at this lamp, and it reminds me of somebody standing there with their hands on their hips. This just the figure. So I know that's going to come up when I start to paint it. I'll treat it like a person. Okay, well I just, just blended all that away, all that nice stuff. I'm not going to try and correct it yet. Again, I'm really concerned with getting the canvas covered and getting this first statement down for in the hour that we've got. Okay, that's close enough too. All right, now for my favorite little gold. I've been in this yellow ochre mode lately, so I'm going to take some Indian yellow, yellow ochre. Let's see. Oh, I like that. And that's going to be the wall color. I'm exaggerating that a little bit, but hey, why not? That's why we paint. Because this is going to be the place where it is allowed to be bold. Now that poor lamp's going to I'm going to have to fix that shape a little bit so I know where to paint. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit. See, sometimes you have to adjust as you go. That's too much paint on my brush. That would have been a bad blob. Okay, so let's try and get this a little more. I hate having to make things symmetrical. It makes me tired. It's kind of like having to stay in the lines, but that's fairly important for this. Yeah, that's close enough. Okay, now I can go back to the wall. I was so inspired. Now, how I really started on this whole bedroom series is I went over to my aunt's to take pictures of her walls because I was doing some paintings for her, and I wanted to get a sense of her room. And yes, I do match decor, and I wanted to get a sense of her room and what that felt like, and this sense of scale and all that good stuff. So I took all these pictures, and when I got home, I was like, this would be awesome paintings. All of these scenes would be great. So that's how I got started on these. She doesn't even know I'm painting these. Now I'm inspired to go to more bedrooms, do more paintings. I've got this great old bed that was my grandmother's. Came from Italy. My grandfather was a realtor, and he sold this house. And he's from Italy, and he sold this house to these people from Italy. And when they moved, they went back to Italy. When they moved, they didn't want to take all this furniture. It was hand-carved, beautiful stuff. And I inherited this really cool bed. So I will probably paint that, too. Then again, just a section of it. I don't want to do details. Okay, that's looking good. I hope you're looking around at your bedroom going, ooh, I could paint this. Now, there are other things you could paint, but you can't air them till later on CMAP. So if I ever have a figure drawing class, I'll have to do that later. Oh, this wall. I'm having too much fun with this wall. the guy that she had do her walls or paints are just absolutely beautiful. He gave her walls some soul. Okay, now how am I going to darken up this? The bottom of the wall needs a little bit of violet. Michael, my teacher, he always used to say, you can't do anything that's strictly yellow. You couldn't do a whole painting just in yellow. You've got to have some violet somewhere, because otherwise the yellow is just like a spoiled child. You need that little bit of variation. Michael always had good metaphors for what happens. I still hear him in my head when I paint. It's great to have a teacher that's influenced you that much. And the cool thing, one of the cool things about Michael is that I don't paint like him at all. It was great. No matter what your style was, he worked with you and had, you would become a better painter. He says, I don't want you to paint like me, I just want you to paint like you, only better. Okay, I like that. That's really cool. Okay, gotta quit playing with that. Let's see, let's put in the base part of the lamp. And that, again, is these reds and bronzy colors. I'll throw in a little green so we don't get bored here. All right, this kind of looks like Aretha here. Yeah, you got little hands on your hips. Great shapes. These lamps are great shapes. Actually, I got some lamps from my grandmother from Italy too. I'll have to see. Yeah, I'll have to see about painting those too. See, one little bedroom scene got all kinds of stuff started. Got inspired. Got to whip this out so this really starts looking like something in the last section of this show. Okay. We'll put some brighter red right here. I'm just squiggling that in here. I don't know if that's a word. I'm making it a word. Hey, they added jiggy to the dictionary, so this will work. Okay. That's nice. When it's not nice, I tell you too. Again, I'm at this point, in the interest of time, I'm not worried about getting perfect shapes. I'm worried about getting pretty good shapes and getting the canvas covered. Okay, it's dark down here. And while I've got this stuff on my brush, what else? What other dark shapes can I put in? And maybe even repeat some of this color over here. I mean, this is an alarm clock or one of those little old-fashioned alarm clocks, but that's it. That's all you need to say there. Why babble if you can just say it with a couple words? No babbling. No babbling in this painting. We don't have time. Okay, let's get the top of the thing in too. And that's a little dark there. I'm just looking to see what this stuff does. Okay. Going back, well, I have things on my brush. I'm hitting other areas, like let's put in the top of the lamp. Can't forget that. That was fairly you know, fairly even, not totally even, but you know what? It's close enough. And whatever doesn't work, I'll fix later. And let's see, what does this do? I'll just give this little rim here. And now I'm going to put some light back in. I need a different brush for that. That's not going to do it. That's not controlled enough. You don't normally see me painting with these little brushes, and you got to do it for this area. It's still not too tiny where I'd have to get out my little reading glasses, so it's doable. Now I understand why Monet's paintings changed like that. Okay, this is lighter here, but we don't want it too light. I just don't like that. What don't I like about it? It's too neutral to be under that much bright light. So I'm going to put the light in and then put other color on top of it, because it's easier to do that way for these small little shapes. And because we're really getting low on time. Still got our little hands on our hips. I think a cool thing too, when I get down to this part of the show, I'm a little looser than I would be because I don't have that kind of time, so it helps me loosen up. I don't know if I've told you about this, but sometimes I used to put an egg timer on and hear that little tick, 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 tick helps you paint with a sense of urgency. Let's see, this is lighter here. Lighter there. We're going to have to throw in some cool colors. I know it's hard, but I got to throw in some blues here. Otherwise, this painting's not going to be happy. You got to have balance. Now, the interesting thing too about the pineapple, that's a dark positive painting. And what I mean by that is the object, the subject, is dark, and the background is light. This is actually so that was a dark positive. This is going to be I was going to say this is going to be light positive, but you know what? By the time I'm through, it might be almost schizo, which is not good, but we'll see. But it is the opposite, where the subject is in the light. Okay, so I need to put in the top of that dresser, and I'm just going to grab some yellow ochre, some Indian yellow. I don't want it to be the same color as the wall, so ooh, that's just too much. I might have to get out the white. Yeah, that's better. It's still too bright. I need to tone that down with some green and a little bit of blue. That's better. And these interesting different little color, these whoops that I made here in the little shapes are going to help this thing be a little more interesting. So you notice I didn't wipe out the color that I put that I didn't like. I just added some other color to it. Helps add some interest. Okay, it needs to be lighter here. Got this race against time. Next time I will definitely bring in some other bedroom scenes so you can see where I'm going with this. These lost edges are really a lot of fun to do. Having a lot of fun in the bedroom. There. Okay, I need to blend that a little bit. What I'm doing is I'm pulling this whole thing together by doing a little bit of blending. And I know I've neglected looking in the mirror to see how I'm doing. So I'm going to pull back and say, okay, how am I doing here? Well, I'm blocking the mirror. It's starting to take some shape. It really is starting to work. I can tell you right now, though, I need to darken this a little bit at the edges. What I'm doing is I'm not, as I get closer to the lamp, I'm applying less pressure to the brush. So there's less paint going on. I'm going to do that same thing here, because over here it's further away from the light source. And I'll go ahead and tidy up this line a little bit. All right, so now I need to clean this up because I was really rushing it. And see with the amount of time left how I can do to get this to a fairly finished state. It's coming. Okay, so that goes like this here. It's like you just keep looking at it. What's it doing over here? What's it doing over there? This needs some more dark over on that side. We've got to anchor this little alarm clock. So there's a dark side there. And I don't even know what this is. It doesn't matter. It's a good shape, though. And I neglected to put the light in there, so I'm going to tidy this up a little bit. I'm just cleaning up what I did already. And you know what, that needs to, that's what, this little yellow ochre needs to really come in right here. So I'm going to take a scruffy brush and correct my drawing here and do it on both sides. Now I wiped out his whole little base. Now I'm calling it a him. Okay, he's changed shapes here. Okay, but that's okay. I can go over that. A little bit of light here, a little bit of light here. That's not bad. Okay, now we can start cleaning this thing up for good. Yeah, I had some paintings too that I just weren't too sure about. And I let them sit for about 3 or 4 days. And it's amazing. One of two things happens. Either I go back and I love the painting, or and, you know, it must have been some little elves that came in the middle of the night that made it better than it was the last time I saw it, or it looks as bad as I thought it did, and I have to work on it some more. And so time is a good thing. We'll see what happens after I let this one sit for a little while. But this is one of those where I'm not, there's no way I can kill a painting. There are times when you start a painting and there's no way you can hurt it, and there are other times where you just don't know where you're going, and it's amazing how I could hurt a perfectly good painting. But you know what? There's always another one out there. Okay, so that base is starting to take form. Now I need to strengthen the little arms. And what's up with this? That needs a little more. This reminds me of little queen collars like you used to see. Like Queen Elizabeth, yeah. That's just not symmetrical, so I'll just add this here and I'll throw in some dark and clean that up. And the other thing is when it dries, I'll really sit there and analyze and go, okay, this needs to be a little bit better here, here, and here. definitely not going to take the time to do that now. Do want a little more. I'm going to get a softer brush, clean up this a little bit. And that blue is just a nice little thing. I can add some light there, and that would help. Okay, even though this doesn't show that this is a little darker here, I'm going to add that. That gives it some weight. And I think it does have a little curlicue thing going on here, so I'm going to add that too. My reference photo, since I wasn't intending it for a reference photo, it was just a brief little thing to help me do a different painting. It's really, you know, as you can see, it's not a great photo. So it's hard to see what was going on. I'm just going to make up some stuff. What would I like to see happen? Okay, now this base has to be darker because it's floating. So I put a little dark there. And I can put a little dark here, here, and here. And I think the lamp just got a little, the base just got huge, so I'm gonna erase it. Now, there's always a danger with this painting. I did not look in the mirror to see what I was doing. But I think it's coming out okay. And I'll just throw in a little color there. That was maybe too much. Not maybe, that was too much. It's okay. Let's see. I have to clean up this edge here where the dresser is. And the phone and all that good stuff. All right, so we need some more ochre back here too. I'm going to take that straight little, almost like a flat, my little equivalent of a liner brush, and draw that line in here. Give it a little separation. Phone needs to go past that. That adds to the shape. See, I'm just sculpting. I'm just cleaning up all the little rough spots. I can throw in a little bit of red because we're getting toward the end here. Just a little bit of something right here. So it looks like there's a little more curtain going on. Yeah. And maybe just a little here, kind of like a little Zorro mark. Yeah, that's good. Add some strength to it. Lots of good energy. All right, so it's kind of muddy. It's very dark. How would I finish this painting? Well, I would lighten up the table, but this is a really good base. So I would kind of leave this and let the whole thing dry. And I would lighten up the table. I could try doing that now, but I don't think that would help, but there's too much mud here. Lighten up the table, maybe add a little, make you think there's a drawer here just by, I was going to knock that off again. Some days are like that. That's good. And this is going to have to be a little darker, or that won't make sense. That's better. I can do that right now. There's things I can do right now and things you just have to wait till it dries. Okay, I'm going to lighten that up. Grab some of the Indian yellow because it is my friend. Yeah, like I was afraid of that. It's a little too muddy. So in the last little bit of this show, I'm not going to make that totally be able to sing, but that works. Okay, what do I like about this? There's a lot to like about it. It's loose. It gives you that whole, this whole area is pushing toward here. This I will soften a little bit, but this whole area is pushing toward here, so you've got this nice center of interest. This is just lost in the background. I love the lost edges there. That's great. What would I do to finish this? I'd soften all these edges. In fact, I'll do that before I leave, after the show's over, so that nothing's harsh. And I will even darken this some more, darken the edges here so that this is totally the focus. So really, in an hour, you got a good sense of what it's like to be in that bedroom. And you can feel that the light is on and it's shining on this part of the drape and it's shining on the top of this table or the dresser. And what I'd like you to do is to go ahead and that's going to come out wrong. I'm going to say play around in your own bedroom. But why not? Go ahead, go for it. Take a look, just turn one light on, turn two, hey, and see what different light sources that you can get, and try doing some sketches in there. I think you'll have a lot of fun. So next time on Give Your Wall Some Soul, I'll show you the other bedroom paintings that I've done. And I'd like to hear from any of you through either email or give me a call and let me know about your painting experiences in the bedroom. Thanks for watching Give Your Walls Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom.